very brokenhearted that we did this, and I had a terrible migraine, and to distract myself, I wrote this poem in my head, and it has two themes. One is the dropping of bombs in Iraq, and the other theme is the passing of Virginia Woolf. Tomorrow is Virginia Woolf's passing day, so I thought it seemed like the right time to read it, because its scope goes from March 20th, the first day of spring, to March 28th, the passing day of Virginia Woolf. We haven't practiced this. In fact, I didn't know I was going to do it until about 45 minutes ago or so. But we have no fear, right, Jeff? And one of the reasons that we have no fear is Dr. Ken is not only my doctor, but Jesse's doctor. And but I think she's a little less afraid of the needles than me. So, but no?
Patti, you are my Dr.
Oh, were you?
Ken.
What?
You are my Dr. Ken.
I'm your Dr. Ken?
Yes.
That's all right. You can say that, because what Dr. Ken taught me the best was how, a positive atmosphere can help heal you. So we're producing a positive atmosphere. But don't expect me to stick a needle in your throat. That's not going to happen. I know everything I'm saying is wrong. But anyway, Jesse and I are going to do this poem. I just feel compelled to do it, and it's a lot to ask for. You're all standing. It's a long poem, but if it was Allen Ginsberg, it would be 4 times as long. So. And it's called The Birds of Iraq. I got the idea because a friend of mine was a journalist, John Lee, and he was embedded in Iraq at this time, and he said right before the bombs fell, there's millions of songbirds in Iraq, tiny songbirds, and all of a sudden it got very silent, and he felt very strange. It was the first day of spring, and he thought something seemed very eerie, and he realized it was because the birds stopped singing, because they knew. They could feel like a storm. They could feel something coming. Should you start or should I start? You start. What are they doing? What are they doing bombing the first day of spring? Baghdad, the city of peace, the caliph and the thief. I remember nights swept by the sea. I read the waves, but never ventured in. The polio epidemic, and Indians don't swim. They worship the tides, and they are coming in. Virginia praying for night, refusing to be black, for the moon is full, spilling the skylight in dripping voices. Or are they birds? Why did they cease chirping? When will I cease retching? And how did my head learn to swim? The equinox passed. Virginia marched to the river. A letter for L, a letter for V, and stone by stone, and the weeds floating, and the pitted mirror, and a glimpse of gone, a quiet hand twisting a sheet between her teeth, whispering, pleading amnesty, nervous hummingbirds dreaming of asylum and possible peace, hammering inventory, ruthless embroidery, painted trays, ambulance spattered in Julian's blood. Discard possessions, cut hair, rose growing annuals, thorny hair would not stop, the thorns would not stop piercing her scalp. Thick walled gardens, shams wet with tears, spittle and sweat, desperate eyes, clasping vines, counting beans, the murmur of leaves, a history of the world written on the humps of broken beasts. The birds are silent before they cease, before the bough breaks. I rock, spring awake, bombs fall like fruit. The peach trees lining the boulevard, behind the mosque in flames. The hoopoe, the turtle dove showering remains and spattering sheets, and children toting guns and women soldiering, and I am not them, wrapped in muslin, with bric-a-brac flying and no connection, no culminating, no piece of action, no end, no end. Over the Tigris and the Euphrates, helicopters drop leaflets for people to eat. They paper the moon, the hammered mind. What century is this? Truly the last. As camels race, free from embroidered vests and leather saddles and sacks of spice and water gourds, they run and the sun explodes. The Lamb of God bleats, and goats separate from the sheep, and their beards are woven into scarves adorning priests and freaks. Camels in the dust, astonished by their wounds, their racing minds. Ata, Allah, Bedouin name. Their small ears lined with fur, filtered dust and sand, and double rows of curly lashes. They are camels, and their lashes shield their large soft eyes from the desert sand, and the hair they shed in spring is highly sought for artist brushes. Artist brushes. The band tightened around my head. It slid and encircled my wrist, but I couldn't write. I couldn't grasp a single thing. Not a word, not a world, just time beating a long, fragile string. When you snap a neck, something stops turning in a jewel box beneath the hammered lid. Oh, sister, we met in the spring house and enacted our play. We slept in tents of sheets and dreamed of the desert. We heard the call to prayer, and the sky was magic, and men were leading camels, and we knelt in the thorny scrub, and when I awoke there were scratches on my knees. And never again will vision be so acute that dreams could produce blood, a thorny path littered with wings. If we taped them to our shoulders, sister, surely we could fly. We would be free, like the hoopoe, like the curlew singing in spring. Are the birds going to sing ever again? Are you coming, my sister? Are you coming? I'm much better. We are flying on our own, flapping up and down, discarding sweaters, bearing arms. Oh, sister, oh, to be so small.